Listen, I won't lie, and if you've been here for a while, then you know how true this is. I love this time of year. I love the end of the year reading list. I love the reading goals for the incoming year. I love setting goals for myself. Will I follow all of them? Now that's the questionable part, but at the very least, it gives me some structure for the next year, reading-wise, and it gives you a chance to sort of see what I'm doing, maybe take some inspiration yourselves, and also just give some inspiration in the comment section as well. So I'm very, very excited about this, and cheers to discussing our 2023 reading goals. Also, while I'm here, do need to give a shout out to the sponsor of today's video, which is Book of the Month. You guys know how much I love and appreciate Book of the Month, and truly one of the things that I appreciate the most is that I get to pick what arrives on my doorstep on the blue box every single month. They have a wide variety of genres to choose from, and they are constantly working to promote new and emerging authors so that readers can find books that they love without doing any of the tedious researching that oftentimes, for me at least, puts me off reading because there are so many things releasing just about every day. Their team also goes through all the trouble every single month because they're vetting through hundreds of books and bringing us readers new and early release titles so that we can enjoy more time reading, less time researching. Every month they'll have anywhere between 5 to 7 book titles for you to choose from. There's even add-ons if you want them, and truly what I love, the price. Books are getting more and more expensive nowadays, but they make sure that you find these books at a price that you're not gonna find anywhere else, not even at the bookstore, especially not for new hardcover fiction. Lest I forget that they're also risk-free, so you can skip or cancel any month and you will not be charged for that month. And some of you may be shocked because this month, not only did I choose a thriller, but I also chose a romance. So I got All the Dangerous Things, and then I got Kiss Her Once for Me. And listen, I am all for the holiday romances. I'm gonna try and read a few this year. This one came in super handy because it does feature not only Christmas time, but a Christmas bookstore. So if you would like to sign up to Book of the Month, you can use the code WONDER, and for December only, you can get your book for $5, which is the best deal you're gonna get year round. So I would say run, don't walk. Listen, I'm not gonna lie, it's a little bit weird thinking about the fact that I'm going on 3 years of being on BookTube, and every year I've been here, I've done a reading goals video. So 2020, did some for 2021, last year, made some for this year. Now it's time for me to give you the rundown of 2023. And I will say, out of the goals I put down for me last year, I actually did quite good. Maybe not to the full extent I was expecting or wanting to. However, I will say they were quite good to keep up with the book box, new releases, to actually finish out some series. I didn't finish every series I started this year, but at the very least I did finish some because I already struggle with that enough as it is. We did the quarterly readathons, and so all things considered, I think for the most part, I did just a little bit of everything. And let's get into it. First goal is going to sound a little bit weird to some of you guys. I hope also that some of you guys will be able to relate to this. I've talked to my patrons about this, I've talked to fellow reader friends, and some of us just came to the consensus that for a lot of us, in some points of the year, reading was just not fun. And so my biggest thing for 2023, I just want reading to be fun, because I made it a thing this year of like quality over quantity. And though I was really good this year at in no point of the year making it a priority to read a lot of books, it's just very hard to predict which books are going to be good and which ones are not. And so incidentally, a lot of the things that I ended up reading, I just did not enjoy. And the reality is, when I myself personally, and this is just like a Mel thing, but when I concentrate a lot on these very specific reading experiments centered around very specific genres, very specific things, sometimes that can suck the life out of reading, suck the fun out of reading. And although I like the experimental side of things, I think that very much influenced the outcome of this year. And so personally, I am making it a big thing next year to, yes, still do those themed reading vlogs, yes, still do experimental reading vlogs, making sure to pick out books that I am actually super interested in, and making sure to pick books that I actually want to be reading, instead of one, what I think I need to be reading for those videos, or two, even making it such a grand video. And so I feel like next year I really want to work on finding that perfect medium of I'm reading for fun, but I'm also capturing all of that on camera, because I think it's going to drastically change my reading mood. And with that comes the quality, which is in no way predictable. However, we'll see what happens. Maybe if I filter books a little bit better, it could potentially affect and impact what books come my way. Maybe, potentially. I feel like by prioritizing books that I find myself very, very interested in, I could potentially find more favorites. And so the saying quality over quantity is definitely going to be in my mind next year, but it's going to be intrinsically tied to me reading for fun, because maybe if I read for fun, then hyphen, because then if I read for fun, then it could just drastically change even the mood and therefore affect how much I enjoy or not a book. I feel like that makes sense. And these two first goals lead me to the next one, which is Mel, how many books do you want to read next year? What's the vibe, Mel? What have we chosen? And I am once more setting the books at 75. Now I think 75 for me is a good medium of it's not too low of a goal and it's not too high of a goal. I feel like it sits at a really nice spot for me where it gives me the ability to read a little bit over a book a week but not overdo it. And honestly for me, I don't care about this Goodreads goal. I just set it to like have a visual of how many books ideally I would like to read. Honestly, if I hit it, cool. If I don't hit it, I generally don't care. But once more, it will be set at 75 because I just think that's a good number. Not too low and not too high. Now, let me tell you about one goal that I set for 2022 that I am carrying over to 2023, and that is to continue finishing out series. Now, I think this year I did pretty good. Again, I have like commitment issues with series. And so I really struggle with finishing them. However, this year I finished quite a few, which made me really happy. And there are still some that I am hoping to wipe out before the year's over. We'll see how that goes. I think it's a nice sentiment to have, honestly, to start a series and finish it, especially if it's a shorter series. It may just warrant a binge if it is worthy of that. And so I definitely want to finish out some series. And tied to that, I really would love to do a repeat of a read-along next year, whether that's one or several. The cats are doing the absolute most today. However, if you are into the read-along idea, this year we did the Greenbone Saga, so Jade City, Jade War, Jade Legacy. It was honestly a really fun time. We read all 3 books, had live shows for all 3 books, and it was a really engaging and fun time. So if you'd like to see a repeat of that next year, let a girl know down in the comments. And also, most importantly, let me know maybe what series you'd be interested in reading, because I am always peeping the comments and I'd love to see what you guys have to say and what you'd be interested in reading if that were to happen. Now, the next one some people may think is too simple, too straightforward, but honestly, I feel like I need to hear it all year round, which is why I'm pinning it as a goal for next year. And that is to continue reading outside of my comfort zone while not losing focus on the genres that I love. I feel like this year was a year where I read all over the place, and I quite like that. I quite like having the ability of choosing and picking and nitpicking which genres and books I'm going to pick. It gives my brain a break from certain genres. It keeps my brain like very stimulated, which I like. However, oftentimes, I've said this in the past, I end up focusing on every genre but the genre I love the most, which is fantasy. And although fantasy tends to be very heavy sometimes, and sometimes I do need a break from it, I never want to lose the focus of the genre that I really do love. And so next year, it's not that I want to prioritize fantasy more. I just want to make sure that I am doing it in a very well-rounded way, where I am exploring those genres and books that I am really excited to read, but that I am still giving a place to that thing that made me fall in love with reading, because I really do love fantasy. But for some reason, I keep falling into the pit traps of reading everything else but fantasy, which is not a bad thing. One could say one grows and learns, and one learns their tastes as they go and mature. However, let me read some fantasy next year, please. Something I said I was gonna do in 2022 that I am carrying over into 2023 is continue to read from my shelves. Now this year I feel like I did a pretty good job, and I keep inputting the books that I own on Goodreads. Now I used to use my Goodreads shelf, the want to read one, as everything I would ever want to read. However, I now only use that shelf to put in my physical TBR, just because I want to keep it organized and I want to keep it in a single place. And so I need to update it, by the way, because it's a little bit outdated. However, that's what I've been using to keep a track of how many books I own physically. I feel like this year I did a pretty good job, although I did buy books, and I don't think that's ever going to stop, because one, love buying books, and honestly, retail therapy when one is sad is sometimes very good. Don't do it very often, but I do it sometimes, and honestly, feels quite good. Gives me a boost of serotonin. And also, weirdly enough, it's a psychological thing more than anything, but sometimes I feel like buying new books and putting them onto my shelves really revitalizes the feeling of everything and makes me want to pick up books that I own even more. That was a really weird way of phrasing it, but like, you know what I'm trying to say. And also tied to that, using the library as much as I can. Libby honestly this year saved my life. So it was massive help towards getting ebooks and audiobooks for books that I was reading or wanted to read when I was planning ahead, or when when I just, instead of reading the physical, wanted to read the audio but didn't want to spend extra money, Libby came in extremely handy. So I guess those two go hand in hand. Read more from my shelves and continue to use the library as much as I can so that I don't feel the need to go absolutely berserk with buying books. I think this year I did quite good with the book buying. The quarterly readathons also will continue in 2023, which I am super excited about. You guys know that I absolutely love readathons, whether they're 48 hours, 24 hours, absolutely love hosting them, love the dynamics, love interacting with everybody. So next year, super happy to announce, we are going to have more readathons all together. So every 4 months, I will be hosting a quarterly readathon for 24 hours where you guys will get to join live shows and reading sprints and everything. You'll get to read with me, we'll get to chat in the live chat. And so the first one is going to be in January. So stay tuned for that because I will be announcing the dates as soon as I have planned out some things for January, but I will let you guys know in the community tab as soon as I have that information for you. And I'm just saying, if you do want the monthly readathons, which are always a great time, if you also will want some themed ones, some competitive ones next year, you should sign up to Patreon because I have some really cool things coming for the monthly readathons over on Patreon. Another habit I want to pick back up because I've completely left it in the dust for a hot second now, and that is book journaling. Now, I started book journaling in 2021, I believe. Now I can't remember. Time is but a concept, friends. But I started book journaling and I just felt that in a physical journal, it was a little bit much to keep up with just because obviously I had to draw everything. There wasn't anything that was already pre-filled, already pre-designed. And so I was always making them spread to spread from scratch every single month. And it just became very tiresome. I've just also have come to the realization that maybe for as much as I try, I'm just not going to be a physical reading journal girly. I may not be like a physical journal type of person anymore. I love writing down things by hand. However, I find that I am more of a to-do list person instead of like a let's plan everything out to like a T for the entire month. All that to say, I want to pick book journaling up again. Not physically though. I want to do it digitally. And I have bought a reading journal already that I am gonna be trying out for 2023. I actually bought 2 reading journals and I'm just gonna mix and match them and just build the perfect reading journal for me. Something that fits all of my needs and that is going to work out for the entire year. And we'll see if maybe doing it digitally will jog something in my brain that'll make me reach for it a little bit easier. Because listen, I'm gonna be honest, if there is a feeling I miss, it was filling in when I was reading every day. And I will not lie to you guys, when I was physically journaling and I was inputting which days I had read and what format I had read, and I was writing down the books as I was finishing them, there was just something about it that made me want to read even more. And so maybe if I do that, it'll actually help me towards the next step, which is building a reading routine. Now, I'm pretty sure I mentioned this goal as well for this year, for 2022. Honestly, this year was just full of changes for me. It was a little bit all over the place, a lot of challenges, a lot of personal growth, if I do say so myself. And with that, it was just virtually impossible for me, just based on where my headspace was at, to start a proper reading routine. And so next year, I really want to make it a point to find something that works for me, whether it's mostly reading in the morning or mostly reading at night or reading sporadically throughout the day or whatever that looks like depending on my day. I really want to make sure that I am giving myself that opening to read. I am a very work-oriented person, and so a lot of the time I will not allow myself to read up until I finished everything work-wise that I've needed to get done. And sometimes that works to my detriment because I don't end up reading at all because sometimes there are many things to do. And so next year, definitely want to work on that, because if I can just build a routine where I can cozy up on the couch or on the bed, make myself a nice drink, and just sit down and read and disconnect from everything, I feel like that would be the best feeling in the world. And yet, I have not prioritized that this year, and so next year, it will happen. We're nearing the end, friends, I promise. Because for our very last goal, making reading a part of my life, but not my life. Now, I feel like for the past almost 3 years since I've joined BookTube, I have made it a big point for myself to read, film, edit, rinse, repeat. And that's what I've been doing time and time again. And although it has been fun, a lot of the times it hasn't been, and that's just the truth of things. And so I want to make sure that next year I am making reading a part of my life. And I feel like it's a perfect way to sum up everything that I've already said, from the reading routine to the mood reading, to making reading fun again. I feel like all of that can be encapsulated in, I just want it to be a part of my life. I want it to feel sustainable. I never want to look at a book and go, oh, I have to read, whether that's for a book club or for a read along or for a readathon or whatever it is. I want to make sure that I always have the joy of picking up a book and sitting down and consuming it fully without any issues just incoming while I do that. And so I want to make sure that it's not an all-consuming thing, but that it is a part of my life as it's always been. And I know that may sound odd, but it's honestly something that I want to keep reminding myself all throughout 2023. If at any point I want to do anything crazy, if at any point I feel like straying off the path of good or whatever it is, however we want to phrase it, I just need to remind myself that reading is a part of my life, not my life, and that I am never reduced to the content I make or the books that I'm reading, because I think oftentimes it's very easy to sort of fall into that mindset. So yes, you guys, those are all of my reading goals for 2023. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a massive thumbs up down below. Also, let me know down in the comments, how many books are you planning to read next year? What are your reading goals? And if you want to put just generalized goals that you have that go even beyond the reading, do let a girl know down in the comments, because I'd love to hear those and chat with you guys about all things 2023. So do let a girl know all of that down in the comments. Subscribe if you haven't done so already, because I am constantly putting out videos that I am sure you do not want to miss. And if you want more content, I do suggest joining Patreon. It is always a good time. We are doing a rebrand very, very soon. You guys will love every single second of it. Also, a lot of you guys have asked me in the past, like, Mel, when are you sprinting? When are we live streaming? I don't on my main channel. On Patreon though, we are sprinting quite a lot. Not only do we do weekly sprints, but also on top of the weekly ones, I will go live whenever I feel like it. Whenever we want impromptu sprints, they will happen. And for the past like two and a half months, I've been sprinting a lot. I think I've been sprinting more than I haven't been sprinting, if I'm being honest. We also just have a bunch of other cool stuff like book clubs, a Discord server, buddy reads, daily chats, behind the scenes posts, just a bunch of everything you can find on Patreon. So you can find all of that linked down below alongside all of my social media. Again, thank you so much to Book of the Month for sponsoring today's video. If you would like to check them out, the link will be at the top of the description. I love you guys so much, and I will see you on the next one. Bye!